and you've proven it over and over and over for years that you really have great connectivity, but security is also a critical concern in these days and times. So how does Ruckus One or Ruckus in general address network security, guys? Who wants it? Rock, paper, scissors?
I can start.
All right.
So security obviously is a very key element of any network, right? And many times there are different types of vulnerabilities that are detected, both in software and even in lower firmware. And one example is the infamous crack attack that happened on WP a couple of years ago, right? And a lot of times what happens is, especially with on-prem deployment, people, the Ruckus network always works, right? People just fire it up and forget it. They are not paying attention to what's going on in terms of vulnerabilities and security issues that are happening out there. And they would continue to run old firmware, which makes the network very, very vulnerable to attacks. And that's one of the biggest concerns that we've seen from all the major brands in hospitality, that some of these properties are running equipment and software that's pretty old, and they're not patching it, they're not upgrading it to the latest specification and the latest standard. With Ruckus Cloud, you have the option of auto-updating your firmware, right? So we are constantly releasing new software, and once a vulnerability is detected, we would release a new patch. And if you've enabled auto updating of the firmware, the system would automatically push that security patch onto your network, right, making it secure all the time. So that's one aspect of it. The second aspect of it is actually creating the network that is secure, right? So we have things like microsegmentation, uniform policy and enforcement that will segregate the traffic. And so even if some rogue devices are coming online, they will not be able to inflict damage onto your network.
Got it. You put them in a separate room, kind of like when I travel up to Canada and say the wrong thing. They put me in a separate room, right, Ronkin?
Don't travel to Canada with a screwdriver, man. They think that you'll be up here to take our jobs. That's the way it is.
I do sales. All right.
But just to add on to what Rob said, I mean, one of the other things too about the firmware deployments, specifically for brands as it comes to it, is that brands are very particular about ensuring that the proper firmware is in place. So when a new firmware patch from us gets released, they may want to check it out in their lab first to make sure that it's running absolutely perfect with all of their systems. So we can do that before that updated version is actually allowed to be released across all their properties. So a brand can actually control that release, right? Whereas before in a virtual smart zone environment, they weren't able to do that other than just the administrative, sending notifications and so forth. In this instance, they can actually lock that firmware version out from being deployed until they're ready.